Welcome to JLive. I'm JArt's Executive Director, Laura Mandel, and it's great to be with you for JLive. JLive is our virtual series of cultural experiences that bring us together to explore and celebrate the diverse world of Jewish art, culture, and creative expression. We're bringing you bite-sized conversations with the best Boston area talent. Today, I'm with glass artist Sid Hutter, a glass and lighting designer who has made pieces that are in the Peabody Essex Museum, the White House, and around the world. Sid's a wonderful friend to JArt, so it's extra special to be together today. Welcome, Sid.
Thank you. Hi everyone.
If you have questions during the conversation, please share them in the Q&A, and I'll ask as many of them as time allows. So before Sid tells us more, we're going to take a quick tour of his studio. All right. Sid, I love seeing your studio because it reminds me of the days when I used to do glass work.
Yeah, the Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. So tell us, we are here to learn about you, and you are such an accomplished glass artist, but I love how you came to making Judaica. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I was asked by the Jewish Community Center to decorate the Hanukkah windows, and there ended up being a little bit of a misunderstanding. They thought that I was some sort of a two-dimensional artist, and I'm a three-dimensional sculptor. And so I had designed these menorahs for the window, and they had to build a special setup to be able to accommodate the menorahs and the candlesticks, which I also have an example of here. And these are the original candlesticks. I've since modified this design, and I have a different design that's called the Unified Light, which are laminated with 3 pieces of glass, and they have a color in them. I also have a different style of menorah. There's the olive and there's the bet design.
Beautiful.
So that's the extent of my Judaica. I have some other candle holders that don't hold 2 candles, so unless you got 2 of them, they wouldn't be great for Shabbat candles, but they might be nice for other purposes. So does that answer your question, Laura?
So a little happenstance on the Judaica, but I know you're so involved with JArts and other aspects of the Jewish community, so it's such a natural intersection for you. All right, so here's what I love, Sid, is that not only are you a glass artist who also makes Judaica, but you know more about the history of glass and the Jewish community than anyone I've ever met. Would you give us the 2-minute snapshot of the history of Jews in glass?
Okay, well, glass was invented in the Mesopotamian Valley back about 5,000 years ago, and glass has followed somewhat along the lines of the diaspora of Jews. It started in the Mediterranean, moved to Italy, and the interesting thing in Italy is they put the glass artists or glass blowers, as it were, out on Murano, which is an island off of Venice, which I was there a couple years ago for a glass conference. And they were doing that for 2 reasons. One, keep fire from burning down Venice, and 2, they wanted to keep the workers from being kidnapped or stolen and their secrets taken away, which ended up happening. Glass moved to Bavaria, and then it moved on to England, and from England it moved to the United States. And here in the United States, some of the glass centers are on the East Coast. Boston was a glass center, and Sandwich became the real center of glass. There were quite a few factories down there. Jamestown, Virginia, Cape May, New Jersey, where glass follows the source of raw materials and fuel. So wherever there's sand or wherever there's any kind of wood to burn or something like that, because glass melts at over 2,000 degrees. There's a book that I bought several years ago called The Glassmakers, and it's the history and the odyssey and the story of the Jews traveling throughout the world as glass workers. I am part of the contemporary glass movement. This is a catalog from a show that I had at the Sandwich Glass Museum. And these are objects that I made. This was a retrospective show that I did there at the Sandwich Glass Museum, and I was really honored that I was part of hundreds of years in glass, and a lot of the contemporary glass artists happen to be Jewish, and a lot of the glass collectors who help foster and continue the growth of the glass movement are Jewish. So there definitely is a relationship between glass and Jews, and there's, like I say, the ceremonial objects that make up celebrations, the Near Talmud, a lot of the eternal lights over synagogues, bimas are made out of glass. And Kiddush cups traditionally are made out of silver, but there are some glass Kiddush cups. As a matter of fact, for my wedding, we blew our own goblets, and then I smashed the goblet, and then I had a friend who's a very famous paperweight maker make a paperweight, and he encased the broken glass within the paperweight.
I love that. I love that. So, you know, I'm curious, Sid, as you're talking about the different styles of glass, and you're talking about glass blowing, and then you mentioned on one of your pieces that it's plate glass. Can you talk to us a little bit about your process?
Sure, I would love to. Here is an example of blown glass, and I started out as a glass blower. So something that comes out of the furnace is gathered, there's color put on it, and it's blown out, is glass blowing. This here is made out of plate glass, which is the sheet glass that they make windows, tabletop, shower doors, and the like. When I was a graduate student at Mass College of Art, there was a fire in the studio, and I wasn't able to blow glass anymore, and I had to come up with a way of making objects, because I moved from Illinois, where I first started working with glass, and I had to figure something out. So I came up with the concept of the plate glass vase, which I've been making since 1979. And there's an example here of a plate glass vase. I don't know if you can see it from there.
Gorgeous.
It's a combination of laminated glass. There's 1/4-inch circles, 1/2-inch bars, and then in the piece, there's colored pigments that make up the colors. This is red, yellow, and blue, and it has a little sparkle in it, so you can see as the piece turns, you can see the rotations of the colors. Some of the vessels I make, like this yellow one, are all single monochromatic colors, and I also use different techniques as far as the laminating. This one is triple laminated, so there's 3 pieces of glass here and 3 pieces of glass, and in between is where the color comes. If Chris can pan down on this piece, if you get it the right angle, you're looking straight through the glass and you don't see any of the color. Okay.
Wow, that's pretty incredible, Sid.
Thank you. And then I've done quite a few different series. I have a series here I call Shifting Transmissions, which sort of, they use the bar part of the pieces, and it has laminations here of green and yellow, and it has a gold pigment. So I use 3 or 4 different technologies or contemporary technologies. There's the glass, there's the laminate, which is an ultraviolet curing adhesive, and then I use the colorants, which are pigments. I use some dyes, but mainly pigments. So in a blown piece, that would be naturally occurring materials like cobalt or copper would make red, cadmium or selenium would make yellow. And so in these, it's synthesized organic material that makes up the coloring. Over here on the work table, I have some other objects that I've designed and made. These are lamps that I make using a different kind of plate glass. The lamp diffuser in these lamps are obscure glasses that they use. So you might recognize at a post office, the windows in a post office use obscure glass, anywhere where they want to block the light. I also make this line of lighting. These are the structure for a pendant. Here's a pendant here hanging from the ceiling with a tubular bulb. I also make them with spotlight LED bulb. I also laid out a piece here that I'm working on, which is a series of blown elements that is then going to have the structure of a plate glass vase. So we'll have these bars and these circles, and I have a drawing file here, which I didn't pull this out, but here's the drawing for the piece. So I will, everything that I make, I do an architectural drawing of it so that I know exactly what the sizes are. Like with this piece, is this section here, I had to use calipers to measure this and then measure that and then calculate that curve to simulate that, but I know what the plates are going to be because they have to match up to the piece there. So that's sort of my process. I'm working on quite a few different things at once. Like Laura said, I have both a Judaica business, which I'm not focusing on that much, but I do have products that I've made. I'm working on the lighting. I'm really focusing on the lighting now, and then on my sculptural.
So Sid, I love that you've talked about light in so many different ways and how light is incorporated into your work. The physical candles in the candle holders, the way the light goes through the glass. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the meaning of that and how that connects to Judaism for you?
Absolutely. Well, I think we all have an inner light. We have a soul. We have something within us that drives us. And I think that glass as a material is a purveyor of light. You build lights out of glass. You have like the candlelight, the Nir Talmud. So light is really, and they say, oh, he's glowing, or he's seen the light. You know, there are a bunch of terminologies of light. And I think that light, you know, when you look at Bereshit in Genesis, you know, and how, you know, there was darkness and then there was light, you know. So light is a concept that sort of goes right through Torah, it goes right through the history of Judaism. And I think that making objects that sort of are a question for myself about how I relate to both the glass, the light, and somewhat my spirit and my soul, you know, and how like the work comes from within. Like one of the interesting concepts, I went to art school. I went to an undergraduate, a 20,000 student liberal arts college where there were people in economics and people in math and education and everything. When I went to mass art, it was, I don't know, 400 or 500 students that were all artists. And the question always came up, well, how do you know whether you're an artist? Well, you're in an art school and you're asking whether you're an artist or not. You really, you know, need to refocus and refigure what you're doing, because art comes from within. You either do or you don't. And I have two fantastic children, Daisy and Manny, and they both have sort of, I guess I did a little bit of brushing off the shoulder, and now they're artists as well. And it just sort of came to them over the years. They've, as a matter of fact, Daisy's a junior at the University of Vermont as an art major. She hopefully will have her studio classes this fall. And Manny has turned into quite the builder. And I think that building is another thing that is part of the Jewish religion. The temples were built, you know, there's a lot of, you know, the structure of the synagogue and all is
and I can vouch for how talented,
absolutely,
and I can vouch for how talented your kids are. So you've clearly rubbed off on them.
Yeah. And that's something
great.
else that comes from Judaism, I think, and not necessarily only exclusively from Judaism, but the pride in family and the pride in handing things down from generation to generation, like that, going back to the whole concept of the Italian glass movement. And the Italians, I love, like, you hear them talk and they talk about the glass, and that it's like this object of reverence or something. And one of the problems today is that the history of that movement is starting to be stymied and slowed down by the fact that a lot of the younger Italian children of accomplished glass artists don't want to follow in the caste system, sort of as it was, where they start when they're 13 years old, and by the time they're 25 or something, they're a master gaffer, and then they're sort of running the show. So they, a lot of times they don't want to go through the apprenticeship program. So there's, a relationship there too.
Oh, it's really interesting. So someone has asked me, what project are you working on right now that you're most excited about?
Sure. How much time do we have left?
Probably about 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm working on a specific project that's for somebody for a couple who live here in the Boston area. And what I'm doing is I'm making a vase that is lit from within. So it's sort of a Ner Talmud, and this is a model of it. This is not the finished object. The finished object will have complete polished circles. Right now, several of them are polished in there. And the way that this light works is that there's LED lighting in the inner core of this piece, and it uses what's called RGBW LEDs. So they're red, green, blue, and white, and they're on a program. I have a controller here that's like a little mini computer, and so right now we're on the sweep scene, but I can change by pressing a button. This is sparkle. This is random fill. You can see the computer tells the LED lights what they're supposed to do. Sorry if someone is calling. Carolyn and rainbow. And
wow.
The one that I like the plasma a lot because it sort of works with that whole concept of the electricity and light and all. And then, of course, where would we be without the Knight Rider with the red shooting through the piece? So I'd be glad to answer any questions about what I'm doing and what I can do with glass. And I want to thank, people who helped me, Chris Eden, who's over here running the phone for us, and Collins in the back making more pieces, grinding some glass. So it's one of the things that people should understand. No artist can do it by themselves anymore. There's way, way too much work involved in being a professional studio artist today. And between designing, making, marketing, documenting, there's really not enough time in the day to do it all by yourself. So I couldn't do it without the help that I get, and also the promotion and the patronage of my patrons. I have several people who own quite a few of my pieces, and what I tell people about buying artwork is I've already made it. I've already paid for the materials. I've already paid for the help and everything else. So what you're really doing by buying a piece is enabling me to make another piece. So it's really that sort of, there was the famous Italian Medici who, promoted artists, and I have a Medici down in Washington who has about 35 of my pieces and has donated pieces to several museums. And I encourage people, if you're interested, especially in these times when people are struggling, that to find something nice for your home and to be able to enjoy it is fine by me.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, especially in this moment where I know, people are thinking about ways they can maybe fix up their homes or do something good for the arts world, I think that's especially perfect. So thank you, Sid, for spending some time with us. I should mention his studio's in Newton, if you were wondering.
Can I
sorry,
plug
go ahead, Sid.
my website? It's,
Please do.
SidneyHutter.com. And I do have a network of galleries throughout the country, but I also am available here in my studio if someone has a question. And some of the lighting and the Judaica I really don't show in the gallery, so that would be something that you would need to come directly to me about at this point.
Great. Well, if anybody's curious, I also put your website into the chat. So if anybody wants to check out more, you can see it there. Sid, this has been great. Before everyone goes, I just want to remind you that the next JLive installments are violinist Yeko El Male, who's just incredible, on Tuesday, August 18th at 7 p.m. And on Monday, August 24th, back at this time, we have Fran Addison, who's a Judaica maker. And of course, last but not least, as the JArts tagline says, let culture connect us. JLive and JArts programming isn't possible without generous community support like yours. So please consider donating if you like what you're seeing. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Sid. This was so much fun.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a great day.
You too. See you soon.
Yep.